This is Matt Crane, station manager of Final Fight Bible Radio and pastor of Truth Bible Baptist Church in Lake Oswego, Oregon. My testimony begins in Salt Lake City, Utah, where I was born in a Mormon state to a Roman Catholic father and a Jehovah's Witness mother. My parents were ballroom dance teachers who owned their own business and could barely make ends meet. In those days, my crib was a dresser drawer and the ballroom dance studio was our home. Things weren't easy for my parents. Both of them had religion, but neither one of them knew the Lord. Between the alcohol, the financial problems, and the religious arguments, their marriage came to a breaking point, and my mother took me and my younger sister back to Idaho. My mother took care of us, went to work to provide for us, and one night that single mother cried out in desperate prayer to God and said that she needed His help to raise me because she knew she couldn't do it on her own. I must have been around 5 years old when we began going to the Lutheran church with my mother's parents, and one of my earliest recollections is going there and being given a Bible. It was a Good News Bible, but I didn't know the difference. All I knew was that this was a very important book, and I felt very special that I had one. Another one of my earliest recollections happened around that time, and I remember that we were at the grocery store. I was standing by the cart next to the produce, and saw that the grapes were looking very delicious. So I reached up, stretched the little plastic barrier that was around the fruit, stole a grape, and ate it. A grape, of all things. That was the first time that I remember feeling guilty about something. I felt terrible inside that I had taken that grape without asking. As time went on, my mother got remarried and bought a house on the outskirts of town. There we had a neighbor who invited us to his church, a small Baptist church not far from where we lived. I was still too young to really pay much attention to what was said, but I began memorizing Bible verses in Awana, and the Word of God started to take root in my heart. One morning, after spending the night at a friend's house, I went with his family to their charismatic church called Capital Christian Center. I couldn't tell you what the sermon was on, but I do vividly remember during the invitation that the Lord was dealing with my 12-year-old soul. I knew that I was a sinner, I was scared of going to hell, and I finally understood and believed that Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection was for me. As I sat there under conviction, I thought about going forward, but saw a bunch of people standing on blue tarps with others laying hands on them, and I didn't want any of that, so I bowed my head there in my seat and asked Jesus Christ to save me. Shortly after that, the Lord led my family to a church where I learned sound doctrine and the truth about the King James Bible. A special guest preacher named Dr. Peter Ruckman came out to that church, where he drew chalk drawings while he preached. After hearing him, I bought a copy of his book titled The Mark of the Beast, and from that moment on, I was hooked on the Word of God. A number of years later, I married my wife, whose family had been missionaries in Argentina. We moved to Fairbanks, Alaska, and then God rerouted our lives to Pensacola, Florida, where I attended Pensacola Bible Institute just in time for the 3 final years of Dr. Ruckman's personal teaching in the classroom. Now I live with my family in Portland, Oregon, where I have had the privilege of being an assistant pastor for 7 years and have now branched out and started another church in this spiritual vortex called Portland. A few years ago, the Lord led a few of us to start Final Fight Bible Radio, and the rest is history. Another story, perhaps, for another time. I have always been amazed at how good the Lord has been to the kid who started out in a drawer in a ballroom dance studio. Life with Jesus Christ is an adventure that I would not trade anything for, and I can't wait to see what the Lord has next. This is Matt Crane, testifying that Jesus saves.